Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to talk about a bit of an issue that is affecting a lot of YouTube creators around the world. And this is the thing, I'm actually calling out this issue, I'm actually talking about some of the problems when it's something that actually hasn't personally affected me that much. And that's actually going to be the new restriction settings that I do believe that YouTube has rolled out in some nations across the globe. Perhaps it's a little bit imbalanced with all the stuff going on. So let's just go ahead. Let's start talking about some of the context over here. Apparently, YouTube has implemented AI filters at the start of August. And this is what I mean. We've already had a whole month of this at the start of August, and it is decimating a lot of channels. For some people, it was turned on automatically, basically rendering a lot of videos that they usually enjoy fully invisible. If you've noticed a significant unexplained drop in views in the last 3 to 4 weeks, this is the likely issue. And so I'll just go ahead, I'll just use my channel as like a bit of an example of where I believe this phenomenon isn't happening. But I'll talk about situations where I think creators could naturally be impacted by it. So I'll just pull up my Social Blade profile over here, and that's gonna give a bit of a record, right, of like the entire month. Basically, views, all of that stuff, so on and so forth. What you can see is that, well, let me move my camera. You can see over here, my views in August were pretty consistent. Yes, there was a bit of a dip, right? There was a bit of a dip in August. But you want to know what else was in August? The second half of version 2.5, which, as we all know, had almost no fucking content in it regarding Wuthering Waves. And so a dip of about 400k views, understanding that time frame to me, not really that much of an issue. And as you can see, right, in recent 2 weeks, the channel's doing pretty good. So again, like I said, this isn't really like a call out for me of like, oh, I'm getting sabotaged by YouTube, I'm having all of these concerns. This is a problem that other individuals are having. It might be because I'm in the US. It might be because of some other reason. We'll explore some of that in just a bit. So now let's keep reading. The crew and I were breaking our brains trying to figure out what was going wrong, why some potential bangers flopped like they were hot garbage. And it turns out YouTube started running this AI filter without notifying anyone. And so this is the thing. This is the situation, right? If you go ahead and you look at my channel, right, you can pull up this stuff, look at all the statistics, look at what's going on. You see all my latest videos, right? This is the default view. If you go ahead and then you turn on this restricted mode, which apparently for some individuals and some people's viewers, this restricted mode got turned on. I press it, and now only some of my videos are showing up, right? Some of my guides, some of my sponsored vids, only some of my things, right? And I think that if you have any like profanity in your video, if you like say certain terminology, perhaps if you have the word, you know, how would you define farming echoes? One word that I could use starts with K. Maybe using that word is what triggers this filter. And this is the thing, right? I think that the channels that are getting most impacted by this, the channels that had a bit of a drop in August, you can probably think about some of the CCs that didn't do that well in August. This restricted mode, I do believe, probably only triggers when the viewer or the user that's logged in is of a certain age, or really hasn't met a certain age. Because why else would they be restricting things like profanity, certain terms, so on and so forth? That's what I think is actually going on over here. And the reason why myself and honestly creators like Gacha Smack, we haven't really seen much of a reduction in views. You can see over here, it's looking just pretty consistent, like 53k 7 days ago, like no sweat off my back, right? I've got no qualms with anything going on over here. I think it's because our viewer base is older. I think it's because when you think about the type of content that like myself or like Gacha Smack, this type of stuff that we make, it's typically for older individuals who have like more critical thinking abilities, essentially not Genshin Impact players, because they're all kids. Let's just be real here. They wouldn't act the way they do if they weren't all kids. And so I think the end result is that those who curate their content in a certain way, act in a certain way, and have certain audience demographics, I can show you mine, I don't think they're seeing that much of an impact at all. But as you can see over here, guys, right? Look at the type of content that's being shown as an example over here. League of Legends, which is played A lot by who? High schoolers, middle schoolers. They love this game. They love playing this game. And so it makes quite a bit of sense that this would be the type of channel that takes a ton of damage from that automated restricted mode because they make content for younger people. And this is the thing, right? Let me just pull up my audience demographics for you for just a second so you can kind of see the picture that I'm trying to paint right now. Well, would you look at that, guys? That's my third lowest age group. 13 to 17-year-olds is literally my third lowest demographic. And 9% females. I think that's pretty good. I think they like what they're seeing. Anyways, so yeah, my biggest demographics are actually 18 to 24, 25 to 34, and 35 to 44. Unks are like stands. They attract each other. Anyways, so hopefully there's been a lot of people, right? There's been a lot of CCs. There's been situations, right? Let's just look over here. There have been some CCs that I personally think have taken a little bit of damage from this, right? Think about a guy like Bran Online. He's been making some transitions in his content, right? I think in a way he is like maturing the age of his audience. He actually made a video talking about this entire situation. But let's be real here. Bro has basically been cultivating a community of Hoyoverse players across the entire lifespan of his channel. And naturally, right, he's had some videos in the past couple of days that haven't done as, I'm like looking more so at like these ones, right? They haven't done like as great as some of his other things. And I think the take really just is that restricted mode might be on. Some people are really starting to feel the impact of it, but it's also like your videos are only going to get restricted if that profanity is being used. And let's just be real here. Bran's been cussing a little bit more. Bran's been saying some naughty, no words a little bit more often on his streams and in his content because of that shift that he's doing. And so perhaps a lot of individuals who had been, you know, not restricted before some of his new content, I think stuff like this might actually fall into that bucket because of that. So this is what I kind of think the summary of the situation is for creators over here. If you're somebody that has always been a bit of a potty mouth, has always, you know, been like a very true, authentic self across every single one of your videos on your channel, I don't really think that you're going to have any issues at all. Because the reality is that, well, guys, your demographic will just basically look like this. And I think that if the 13 to 17 age range is one of your smaller pieces of the pie, well, then naturally, right, I don't think you're going to have any reduction at all, any modification at all to any of your views. But if this is something that's really high on your end, and you've also done a bit of a shift, perhaps, in the family friendliness of your content, I wouldn't be surprised either if this is something that, you know, is bothering you more and more. And so this is the thing, right? It's like, hey, it's also a bit of a wake-up call. If you're a CC or you're a creator, right, who's had troubles in the month of August and you think it's because of this, well, that's also a bit of a realization. Hey, man, you're making content that tailors to kids. Like, kids, teens, they're the ones that are like really significantly interested in your content. And if that's what you're going for, good, right? But if that's not what you're going for, then that's kind of like a bit of a call out for you to maybe think about how you're like portraying yourself as a creator, how you're thinking through your points and your reasoning, and then maybe up leveling or something like that, right? Leveling up your language, leveling up your discussion, all of that stuff so that you can capture that actual audience that you're going for. Because, right, if you're going to be slinging around the profanity, saying some suggestive things, blah, 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 so on and so forth, but you're also trying to target, well, let's just be honest here, you're also trying to target that younger audience, I guess that's just something that's not going to fly on YouTube anymore. So what I would say overall is that this is probably a nothing burger for most channels, because if you are, you know, making content that's a little bit more tailored around a younger audience, which is something that Doro44 does, one thing you'll notice is that this guy is like, he's like Blue's Clues, right? He's like on the PBS channel. Like if Doro did a show on the PBS channel, that wouldn't surprise me, right? I think he would fit right in. You know, not necessarily like Mr. Rogers, but like kind of like a pay to win version of that. He like keeps it clean. No profanity, right? He knows his audience is full of a bunch of younger, impressionable people, and he acts in a certain way so that, you know, obviously, if his videos get played in the living room, then I don't think that people freak out too much. You play my video or Gacha Smack's video in the living room, yeah, the parents might beat up the kid. Anyways, yep, sorry, that's a Mr. Pokey reference there. So that's kind of like the situation. And this is the thing, right? Now that I think about it, maybe that's why creators like this have been having so many issues. Maybe that's why creators like this have been having a lot of issues with some of the videos being posted on their channel. Because I think there's a realization. I think Mr. Pokey, based off of his antics, based off the stuff he says, I need light speed, I need to sabotage Wuthering Waves right now, immediately. I think he appeals to a younger audience, right? It kind of like makes sense. He does that, but then also has kind of like the profanity and the stuff like that as well, littered throughout his videos. And I think he's one of the bigger victims. I think he's one of the bigger victims, actually, of this whole shift that's going, like, I mean, this is, I think that's for kids, right? But then it's also like a fetish, so it's like also not for kids. You can kind of see like where the conflict is happening over here. And I think that he's actually the biggest example of somebody who's getting just straight up, bro, like repeatedly because of this feature. So naturally, right, a lot of the videos covering this will like go through directions on how to like turn it off. This is the thing. I don't think any of my viewers had it on in the first place, but like if you do, then like this, if you do, this is how you turn it off. So yeah, just so you all know. But for me, my views are fine. I've curated my audience. I've got no issues at all with the introduction of this feature. And remember, it happened at the start of August. So there's quite a bit of a track record to go through. So yeah, that'll be that for this one, ladies and gents. Hopefully we've painted a bit more of like a clear picture of what's going on. I think we provided some examples that make a fair bit of sense based off the relative performance of, you know, some of the gacha content creators in their channels. Like I said, if you're finding yourself in a position where you're restricted, then that's how you turn it off. But let's just be real here. If this restricted mode is on in the first place, that's probably because you're like a kid. And if you are a kid, maybe don't play gacha games where you spend thousands of dollars because you're in school and you don't make any money. And you're spending your parents' money to do that. So like maybe don't. It actually explains a lot that Mr. Pokey is one of the gacha creators that's suffering the most from this restricted mode feature, because you just have to think about how absolutely toxic his Twitch chat, his YouTube comments, his community as a whole is. And when you realize his views are suffering after a feature that basically turned on restricted mode for underage kids, his YouTube is suffering after that. His community is just a bunch of fucking kids. Literally, his community is full of kids. And when you think about the past year, when you think about all the stuff that occurred, all the dramas, it kind of makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that's kind of like the takeaway. Honestly, it's like this probably should be on by default for gacha channels. I think that, I'm just gonna be real, if you're a gacha channel that's suffering from this, that's like kind of good, because then that means kids aren't seeing your gambling game content, which is good. It's just some people are gonna get fucked really hard by it because, well, you reap what you sow, right, Becco? That'll be that for this one. Let me know what you all thought. Peace.